From backbreaking luchador to mumbling terrorist leader, drug-enhanced gimp to recurring Teen Titans Go Easter egg, perhaps no other villain in Batman's rogues gallery has made such an indelible mark in his mythology so quickly after their introduction, and is the only one to successfully break the bat.
This episode of BatFacts,
We're talking about Bane. Bane was created by writers Chuck Dixon and Doug Moench, along with artist Graham Nolan, but much of the foundation for Bane was laid by perennial Batman writer and editor Denny O'Neil. Bane's birthplace, the fictional island nation of Santa Prisca, was initially introduced by O'Neil in the pages of The Question, and the synthetic supersteroid Venom was first shown in the sometimes great, sometimes puzzling O'Neil-penned Venom storyline from Legends of the Dark Knight number 16 through 20. Bane made his first appearance in the Vengeance of Bane one-shot, which, along with the Sword of Azrael miniseries, introduced the key players and laid the groundwork for 1993's epic summer-long Nightfall storyline. In Vengeance of Bane, we're told Bane's origin story, which is as follows. Born into his father's life sentence in the Santa Priscan island prison of Peñadoro, Bane grew up in prison, his only friend being a teddy bear named Osito. Upon using Osito's hidden knife feature to commit his first murder at age 8, young Bane was put into solitary confinement in Peñadoro's version of the Hole, Cavidad Obscura, a cell below sea level that would flood every night at high tide. Bane bided his time, enduring his new take on water torture, honing his intellect with reading, training his body to physical peak, and sharpening his mind through meditation. Haunted by dreams of a giant bat creature, Bane grows more and more powerful and ruthless, becoming the de facto king of Peñadoro, and unwittingly volunteering himself for testing of the new supersteroid Venom. Bane reacts well to the treatment, but soon his newfound abilities allow him to break free of Peñadoro, along with a small posse of 3 sidekicks, Trog, Zombie, and Bird, destined for Gotham and to prove himself against Batman. Like most of Batman's illustrious rogues gallery, Bane is at his best when he's a dark mirror to Batman himself. Taking further inspiration from characters like Doc Savage, Bane is a self-made force, having trained himself to peak human condition using nothing but his indomitable will. Bane's henchmen, Trog, Zombie, and Bird, are homages to Doc Savage's assistants, Monk, Ham, and Rennie. As Bane and Azrael were both slowly integrated into the comics, and seeds of Bruce's physical and mental fatigue were being planted, the stage was being set for Batman and Bane's first meeting. Batman issue number 491 officially kicked off Nightfall, with Bane destroying Arkham Asylum and freeing and arming its inmates, in a scene similar to this one from the third act of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. Over 10 chapters, Batman tries in vain to recapture the inmates, now causing a crime wave throughout Gotham. Finally confronted in Wayne Manor by Bane, in Batman issue number 497, Bruce is savagely beaten, with Bane breaking Batman's back over his knee. This iconic image was featured on the front cover of Batman number 497 and is often recreated and parodied. Bane would become the newly crowned king of the Gotham underworld before being toppled by Azrael, decked out in a shiny new Batman costume just in time for issue number 500 with a very 90s foil-enhanced cover, no less. I don't believe it's a revisionist history to say that Nightfall as a storyline was DC's attempt at proving a point. In a similar way that Mark Waid and Alex Ross's Kingdom Come addressed the dark tone that comics had adopted in the 1990s, the Azrael version of Batman was DC's way of making readers smoke the whole pack, until we were coughing, wheezing, and wishing for good old moral Bruce Wayne again. Having been toppled by Azrael, Bane shifted gears. In a one-shot reuniting creators Dixon, Monk, and Nolan, Vengeance of Bane 2, Redemption, Bane has conquered his venom addiction and seeks, as the title suggests, redemption from Batman. The two eventually team up to take down a gang of drug smugglers, and Bane leaves Gotham City in Batman's good graces. In fact, this wouldn't be the first time that he and Batman found themselves on the same side, and Bane has even donned his own Batman suit on 2 separate occasions. No longer driven by defeating Batman, Bane's new modus operandi is twofold. He seeks to rid the world of Venom and to search for his long-lost father. Bane ends up among the League of Assassin leader Ra's al Ghul, who is so taken aback by Bane's mental fortitude and physical prowess, he briefly names Bane his successor, an honor previously only bestowed upon Batman. After briefly believing Thomas Wayne may be his father in the Tabula Rasa storyline, Bane finds out his true father is the mercenary and Robin villain King Snake. The father-son reunion doesn't go well, and when King Snake is confronted by Batman and Bane, Bane takes a bullet for Batman. Batman repays Bane with a dip in the rejuvenating Lazarus pit, reviving Bane and giving him a new lease on life. Bane bounced around the DCU, filling many roles, being portrayed as a tactical leader as well as a second-in-command enforcer, but also being a member of Amanda Waller's Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, and anti-hero team Secret Six. As part of the Six, his strong mental fortitude allowed him to endure torture to save his new team, including Scandal Savage, who he found himself developing a fatherly protectiveness over, much to her discomfort. Bane's biggest weakness is his dependency on supersteroid venom, or, let's face it, most of the time it's that overwrought delivery system. He almost always is defeated by the destruction or malfunction of his venom tubes, along with a few good punches to the chops. Although some of his defeats come from things that nobody could have ever planned for. Which brings us to Bane outside of comics. As I said in the intro, perhaps no other Batman villain in recent history has gone from their introduction to being a staple of the Rogues Gallery faster than Bane. Animation was the first to embrace Bane, with several interpretations of the character over the years being voiced by such notables as Hellboy, Machete, and Worf. But it all started less than 2 years after his comic book appearance on September 10th, 1994. Bane made his silver screen debut as the titular character in an episode of Batman the Animated Series written by Mitch Bryan. Here Bane's origin is simplified, but remains true to the comic, with Cuba standing in for Santa Prisca, and Bane being stopped just short of breaking the bat. Bane would return a couple more times to the animated series, with a makeover, less luchador and more in the acclaimed Over the Edge and Superman crossover Nighttime, as well as 2003's direct-to-video The Mystery of the Batwoman. Some versions of Bane, such as Justice League Doom or Rocksteady's original Batman Arkham Asylum video game, gave him an initially scrawny physique, adding emphasis to the powers of the Venom drug while diminishing his intimidation mentally. Other portrayals, such as the grunting mute version in Batman Superman Public Enemies and Batman Unlimited, ignore his origins as Batman's self-made intellectual equal in favor of a more one-dimensional brute. Alternate animated versions of the characters also include an older version in Batman Beyond and, well, whatever this is in The Batman. Bane, when transferred to other media, seems to fall victim to a character exaggeration, a more immediate form of what TV tropes calls flanderization. This occurs when a single action or trait of a character becomes all-encompassing, turning a character that previously had more depth into a one-note caricature of themselves. This can happen for any number of reasons, be it time, character focus, or other factors, but it's how a brilliant tactical leader in one story can be reduced to only saying his own name in another. Speaking of which, Bane was first portrayed in live action by actor, stuntman, and professional wrestler named Robert Jeep Swenson in Batman's cinematic low watermark, 1997's Batman and Robin. While not quite as off the mark as it could have been, here Bane is merely muscle for Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy. First appears scrawny, and then under the effects of venom, says little more than his own name. Quick aside on Jeep Swenson. As a wrestler, he was once briefly saddled with the unfortunate ring name The Final Solution by WCW, often worked alongside Tiny Lister, who Batman fans will recognize from his appearance in The Dark Knight, and claimed to have the biggest biceps in the world at certain points of his career. He tragically died of heart failure a little over 2 months after the release of his biggest role to date, playing Bane in Batman and Robin. It would be 15 years before another live-action portrayal of Bane hit the screens, this time played as the Sean Connery meets Darth Vader voiced terrorist leader by London-born Tom Hardy. This is probably a good time to talk a bit about Bane's speaking voice. Hello! As Santa Prisca has no real origin, Bane's accent has been portrayed as everything from Latin to Caribbean to simply growly American. Most famous was Tom Hardy's distinct accent, which he said in a 2012 Hollywood Reporter interview was based on the voice of bare-knuckle fighter Bartley Gorman, the self-styled king of the gypsies, who Hardy said spoke in a Romani gypsy accent, a detail which Hardy attributed to a desire to stay true to the character's origins. This voice was reprised to great effect in this year's The Lego Batman movie by comedian and podcaster Doug Benson, who got the part after years of performing his Bane voice on his movie podcast, Doug Loves Movies.
Let the games begin!
Bane has enjoyed a bit of a renaissance in the comics thanks to Tom King's run that began with DC Rebirth and has thus far brought us 2 Bane-centric storylines, I Am Suicide and its follow-up, I Am Bane. Here, Bane seeks to harness the power of semi-obscure DC villain Psycho Pirate. That's right, Psycho Pirate. And when Batman stands in his way, his inevitable relapse into venom sends him on a path towards revenge. These days, Bane Conquest, an epic 12-issue maxi-series, again reunites Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan with the character, and is hitting the stands as of this video's release. It's hard to say where this series may take Bane, but one thing I noticed is that his mask now covers the exact opposite parts of his face that were covered in Dark Knight Rises. It's like 2 parts of a full mask. But I digress. Thanks for watching. Our next video in the series discusses Batman and guns and is available to watch right now. If you liked the video, please share it with a friend who likes Batman. Like, subscribe, and as always, support your local comic book shop. See you next time.
Giving it back to you, the people.